I decided to go through Rush's page on Instagram, and honestly, I wasn't expecting what I saw. The moment I opened the comments about Anika Nilles joining the band, it felt like walking into a war zone. Some people were excited, but a lot of others, not happy at all. So I started taking screenshots. Here are some of the comments I found. The first one hit me immediately. "It's not Rush. Stop calling it that. I'm happy you guys are still playing, but this is not Rush." Now pause for a second, because this right here isn't just criticism. This is rejection. This person isn't saying, "Let's wait and see." They've already made up their mind. And honestly, I get where that emotion is coming from. When you lose someone like Neil Peart, it feels like the soul of the band left with him. But at the same time, can you really say the band doesn't exist anymore just because they're trying to continue? Then I saw another one, and this one was even more blunt. "Nope, it's not Rush without Neil. Sorry. Call yourself something else, then I'm 100% on board." That's tough, because now it's not even about the music anymore, it's about identity. People are literally saying, "You don't deserve the name anymore." And that raises a bigger question: who actually owns the identity of a band? The fans, or the members who built it? But just when it started feeling one-sided, I came across something different. For the people saying, "This is not Rush, because it's not Neil," then how do you explain the first album? If Getty and Alex say it's Rush, then it is. Now this is where things get interesting, because now it's no longer just about emotion, it's about logic. Think about what that comment is really saying. Rush didn't start with Neil Peart. He joined later and still became one of the greatest drummers of all time. So if the band was allowed to evolve back then, why can't it evolve now? But here's the thing, not everyone is ready to hear that. I kept scrolling, and then I saw another comment that honestly made me stop for a second. I feel like Getty is trying to talk us into something that isn't good. That one, it's subtle, but it's dangerous. Because now the narrative is shifting from "this isn't Rush" to "we don't trust the people in Rush anymore." And that's a completely different level of doubt. Personally, I don't agree with that. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson aren't random musicians trying to cash in on a name. These are the guys who built the legacy in the first place. If anyone has earned the right to decide what Rush is, it's them. But I also understand the fear behind that comment. Fans aren't just protecting music, they're protecting memories. And then, right when the tension was building up again, I found a comment that completely flipped the mood. "She should be herself. She is really good, and I don't expect her to be like Neil Peart. I am sure she will do well." Now this is the kind of mindset that actually gives this whole situation a chance. Because this comment understands something very important. Anika Nilles is not here to replace Neil Peart. That's impossible. Nobody can replace a legend like that. What she can do is bring her own identity into the music. And honestly, that's where things start to feel a little more hopeful. But the internet doesn't stay balanced for long. As I kept scrolling, I ran into another comment, and this one had a completely different tone. "Never mind her, his voice was gone a decade ago." This is not my opinion in isolation. It's the consensus. This is going to be the stuff of nightmares. Now this one, it's harsh, not just towards Anika, but towards the band as a whole. And I'm not going to lie. When fans start using words like nightmares, it shows just how emotional this situation has become. But here's my honest take. Comments like this are driven more by fear than facts. Fear that something they love is about to be ruined. Fear that the magic won't feel the same anymore. And I get it, I really do. But then again, how do you judge something before you've even heard it? And just when it felt like the negativity was taking over again, I saw a comment that reminded me why this conversation is even happening in the first place. "She is going to crush this gig. Neil Peart himself would be delighted to see her perform with them." And that changes everything. Because now, we're not just talking about skill anymore. We're talking about respect for legacy. That comment hit differently. Saying Neil Peart himself would be proud, that's a powerful statement. It shows that some fans aren't just holding on to the past. They're trying to honor it by allowing the music to continue. And honestly, that perspective feels a lot healthier. But of course, not everyone sees it that way. I kept scrolling, and then I saw a comment that tried to make a joke out of the whole situation. "Leave it to Getty and Alex to get a girl as Neil's fill-in." I can imagine their jokes. Sen nen nen nen. Now at first glance, it sounds harmless. just humor, right? But when you really look at it, there's a bit of dismissal hidden in there. Like this is all just some kind of experiment, not something serious. Personally, I don't think that's fair. Anika isn't a punchline. She's a world-class drummer who has spent years building her craft. Reducing her to a joke? That says more about the commenter than it does about her. And then, just when you think the conversation couldn't get any more divided, I came across another one. She will show up Neil Peart, guaranteed. Training means a lot. Now this one, completely different energy. And honestly, this is where things start to get complicated again. Because while that comment is clearly supportive of Anika, saying she will show up Neil Peart, that's a dangerous comparison. Not because she isn't talented, she absolutely is, but because putting her against a legend like Neil creates pressure that no drummer should have to carry. In my opinion, that kind of comparison doesn't help her. It actually sets her up. Because now, instead of appreciating what she brings, people will start measuring her against something almost untouchable. And that's not fair. But at least, it comes from a place of belief, not rejection. But then, right underneath that, I saw something that brought everything back to reality. I'm happy you guys are still playing, but this is not Rush. And there it is again. That same line, that same resistance, showing up over and over. It's like no matter how much excitement exists, there's always this wall that some fans refuse to move past. And I get it, I really do. To them, Rush isn't just a band, it's a specific moment in time, a sound, a feeling, a lineup that can't be recreated. But here's the question nobody seems to agree on. Is Rush a memory? Or is it something that can still evolve? And that question is really what this entire comment section is fighting over. Because the more I kept scrolling, the clearer it became, this isn't just about Anika Nilles. She's simply the center of a much bigger conversation. Who gets to decide what Rush is? The fans, or the band? And just when I thought I had seen every angle, I came across one more comment that really stood out. If Getty and Alex say it's Rush, then it is. It was always up to them. Simple, direct, no emotions, just facts. And I can't lie, there's a lot of truth in that. Because at the end of the day, Rush didn't come from the comment section. It came from the people who built it. But still, not everyone is ready to accept that. And that's where things get even more interesting. Because after going through all these comments, one thing became very clear to me. Nobody is actually wrong. Yeah, I said it. The people saying, this is not Rush, they're speaking from loyalty, from years of memories, albums, concerts, and moments that meant something real to them. To them, changing anything feels like losing it all over again. And the people supporting Anika? They're also right, because music has always evolved. Bands change, sounds change, and sometimes that change is what keeps the legacy alive instead of letting it fade away. But here's where I stand. I don't think this should be about choosing sides. I think this should be about giving it a chance. Because judging something before you even hear it, that's not fair. Not to Anika, not to Getty, not to Alex, and definitely not to the legacy of Rush itself. And if there's one thing I've learned from reading all these comments, it's this. People aren't just reacting to a drummer joining a band. They're reacting to the fear of letting go. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real story here. And when I finally closed the comment section, I just sat there for a moment. Because what I thought was going to be a simple scroll turned into something deeper. This wasn't just fans reacting. It felt like people were protecting something personal. Like Rush wasn't just music to them, it was part of their identity. And honestly, that explains everything. It explains the anger, the resistance, the refusal to accept change. Because when something means that much to you, even the smallest shift can feel like a threat. But here's the truth. Rush has already made history. Nothing can take that away. Not a new drummer, not a new sound, not even time itself. So maybe the real question isn't, is this still Rush? Maybe the real question is, are we willing to experience what Rush could become next? Because whether people accept it or not, this moment is happening. And Anika Nilles is stepping into one of the biggest musical legacies ever created. Not to replace it, but to continue it. And whether it succeeds or not, one thing is certain, everyone is watching.